Hi guys, John from P&P Campers. Just going to do your handover video on your Autohomes Merlin. So it's an N-Reg vehicle based on the VW T4. So for the age of this vehicle, absolutely lovely condition, which you'll see throughout. But we'll start on the outside here under the bonnet. So on the left hand side here, we've got your air filter inside this box just here on the left. Washer fluid under this blue cap here, and your power steering fluid just next door to that. Up above here we've got your brake fluid attached to the servo just behind it, and these are your wiper arms attached to the motor just there as well. Then got your engine oil filling point just here, and the engine oil dipstick should be pretty close by. Probably should have checked that before I started the video. Alright, I'll find it. Right, we've got your engine coolant just up here in this reservoir right here at the front. Pollen filter is this one just here, and your engine battery is this one over here on the right hand side. There you go. Engine oil dipstick is over here on the right. So, nice and clean under the bonnet. Over to the passenger door, you've got your petrol filling point. This is a petrol vehicle, you'll see there. And your bonnet release handle just here inside the passenger door as well. So you have got the Milenko D-bar / lock there with a key to match that one as well. The two vents just here to the right of the door are both to do with your fridge. If you've got the fridge lit up on gas like I do at the moment, you should be able to put your hand over here like I can and feel nice hot air coming out through that. And that essentially just, is another way of double checking the fridge is definitely working. This just here is literally just a vent, probably because there's a cooker just behind it. It doesn't actually have to be there as such, but it's fitted from standard, just a little bit of extra ventilation for the cooker. Gas locker is your next one just here. So we've got the propane 6 kilo bottle in here. You've got a 2023 dated flexible hose, so you will, really the kind of idea is 5 years. There's not any sort of law behind that, but I would always recommend 5 years for replacing these. So to turn the bottle on, we go anti-clockwise round to the left. That turns the bottle on, and clockwise round to the right will turn it off. Keep going until it comes to a complete stop, and that is it. So let's see if there's anything underneath. Your steadies at the back just there have been lubricated up as part of the habitation check, so they're all working as they should. Back, I'll just make sure. Okay. Right, so you have got the brackets here for a bike rack. I'm assuming a previous owner at some point has had a bike rack on there, so obviously that's always nice to have that there ready for you if you did want one. It is, by the way, the brackets for a newer style of bike rack as well, so it means you haven't got to go through the trouble of changing it just for that. Right, this locker at the very back on the off side here is all to do with sort of electronic power. So we've got the hookup point on your left hand side there. All of these Autohomes and Auto Sleepers and things like that of this particular year had this kind of locker, which means that you can actually have the hookup plugged in and have the wire coming out through the bottom of this cupboard whilst it's still completely closed. So if you wanted to do that, put the cable through there and then close the cupboard up, it will still shut properly. And then your ledger battery is just to the right of that there, nice and easy to get to if you should ever need to. So yeah, that's where that ledger battery is. See if you've got anything underneath. Not just yet. So boiler is just here. This is the vent for the boiler. It's a Carver water boiler. You have got a Henry controller in there, which I'll run you through in a minute. The reason they replaced them for the Henrys is because the sort of control panel down on the back of these things were prone to sort of giving up, so they replaced them with the Henry style, which is a little bit better. So that's your water boiler. If you wanted to drain the boiler out of its water, you've got two things you need to do. So you've got this little drain valve here, so you just very, very slowly undo that with a big flathead screwdriver. Once you've managed to get that off, or nearly off, you can turn this top one here, which is kind of like a pressure release valve, and it'll allow it all to come out. Freshwater filling point is this one just here. If I just show you, I mean, obviously every lock has got its own key, but this is the only one that I will kind of run you through. So with these particular styles, you've got to put the key in, which is this key, by the way. Key in, turn it whichever way it will turn, and then the whole thing will come out on the key. Same for putting it back in again. All right, so that's how your freshwater filling point works. And then we've got the toilet cassette locker. So it's a Thetford toilet cassette. It's not really a porta potty, but that's what they called these ones. So the way that these work is that you've got the flush fluid up the top just here. So that's what's in this reservoir at the top. Just so you're aware, it can take a little bit of getting used to, but this flush system here works on a U-bend, which is from here basically. So this is your drain off point for the flush. It works on a U-bend, so even though this is kind of looks like it's completely full, when you start pouring water into here, it won't just overflow as soon as it gets to this point. Because it works on a U-bend, it will keep on filling up and filling up until it gets completely full, and then it'll overflow. So, you know, even if it's really nearly empty, it will still have water in here. So just bear that in mind, basically. So that is the flush fluid up there. That's your pre-mixed pink fluid. And then you've got the actual cassette itself, which you push down on this little yellow button here, and then pull the whole thing towards you. You can then take the entire cassette out, but all you need to know really is that you drain the cassette out from here, and you hold down the little yellow button just there when you're physically draining it out. You should also remember to try and lubricate this little rubber seal here to stop this flap from sticking and getting stuck. But that is it. Okay, so anything else under here? This should be the drain off for your wastewater, I believe. I will double check that. Okay, so in the actual cab itself, got quite a few nice little bits and pieces, like the Clairon head unit you got there, so that's a nice modern one. So yeah, I mean, obviously it's based on the T4 VW, so it's nice and reliable. It has had a service done on it. Your lights come on and off from this switch just here. Hazard lights are here in the middle, just like that. You've got various heater controls down here with the fan speed setting. I mean, you know, it's quite basic, the cab, but you know, sometimes that's what you want, really. You've only got 57,000 miles on the clock, which for a vehicle, you know, of this sort of age is absolutely brilliant. It sort of shows in the way that it drives and runs as well, so that's all good. Reverse in these particular ones, you have to push the actual gear stick down, over and to the top left. That's how you select reverse. Otherwise, it's a 5-speed manual gearbox, and that's about it, really. All complete Autohomes branded carpets all the way through. So yeah. Right, so I'll show you around to the actual motorhome side parts of it. So we obviously done our habitation check on the vehicle, went through, you know, no obvious problems with it whatsoever, just little bits and pieces really. So as soon as you walk in, you've got the sort of main control panel area over here. So this is kind of like the heart of the vehicle, the brain of the vehicle, if you like. So this essentially tells the whole motorhome what to do at any specific time. So if you want to use any power at all, you first of all need to have this very left-hand button here down on aux battery, where I've got it at the moment. If you have it up on engine battery, which is the top way there, it will basically start drawing any power that you get up here from the engine battery, which you obviously don't want. The more that you do that, the less power you're going to have to start the engine up with. So at the moment, I want some power in the back end of the vehicle, so really I need to be down on aux battery. Once I've done that, I can, if I want to, just turn all of these switches on, which will then give me power to the pump, all the lights, and anything that's powered from an auxiliary point of view. So auxiliary bits and pieces might be, well, I don't know, any extra lights that might have been fitted, or if there's any ignitions anywhere, which I don't think there is actually, there's all manual. But yeah, essentially when you come into the van, you want to just turn all of these on. If you're not going to want to use the water as such, then I wouldn't bother using the water pump switch, just leave that off. And in fact, anytime that you're not using the pump, it's always a good idea to switch that off anyway. But for the time being, I want it on. So that's kind of how you have to lay the control panel out in order to use it. I'm just going to take the keys out of my pocket one sec. Yeah. Right, so below that, we've got fuses. They're all what you'd call like glass, or sort of, I can't remember what you call them now. Something fuses, the little glass ones. They're all 10 amp, and essentially to take them out, you just put a flathead screwdriver in there, unscrew it, and it'll just pop out. So, you know, if you come into the van one day and realize, even though you've got this little green light on here and none of the lights are working, even though you've turned all these switches on, then you might want to check one of the fuses. It's all 12 volt related. It's not, you know, these 4 fuses here aren't to do with the mains hookup, totally separate. But yeah, so that's that. So I'll go through these bits over here in a minute, because that's sort of separate to the 12 volt control panel stuff. So I'll come back to that in just a minute. Once you've turned the pump switch on, it's really important that you do one thing. It's less important on this particular vehicle because you've got the Carver water heater with the manual drain off. But it's really important still that you make sure that the boiler is actually full of water before you start trying to light it up. So the only way to do that, there's no gauge on the boiler that says full or empty or anything like that. So the only way to do that is to turn the pump switch on, which we've done over there, and pull the hot water through on your tap. Make sure the pump switches itself on, which it has done. So there's no air coming out of that water just there, or maybe just a little bit there. So I'm happy now, because that's coming through nice and clear. There's no sort of major air coming out of that. It wasn't sort of coughing at me, spluttering all over the place. So I'm happy that that boiler is full. So if the boiler was empty of water, I can guarantee you would not get any water coming out from the hot side of that tap. It just cannot happen. So that's the only way to actually physically check that the boiler's full. If you try and light the boiler up and it's completely empty of water, it's just going to overheat, because you're essentially heating up nothing. All right, so it's really important that you do that. If you don't do that, like I said, you're just going to be running into trouble, like, you know, having to buy a new boiler and stuff like that. So once you've done that, you haven't got to worry about it. And like I said, with this particular vehicle, you haven't got to worry about that so much, because you should know if the boiler's full or empty, because you would have drained it out yourself from the draining point outside. It's only really the newer vehicles where they've got the automatic drains on them that you won't know until you do that. So but yeah, I always like to sort of chuck that in there just so that you know that anyway. So yeah, the pump, I've got the pump switched on at the moment because I need to show you a few things, and the pump isn't running. So that means basically that there's no leaks. It means that there's no pressure being released anywhere else, which means that everything's good. So that being said, you know, the pump's all good at the moment. Shouldn't get any issues with that. And actually it's running really quietly, which is always a good sign as well. So below the sink just here, you've got what you could use as a cutlery drawer in there, and some more storage to the right of that. Also gives you a little bit of access to the bottom of the sink, which is always nice from my sort of point of view, in the sense that you can get to it for working on it, replacing the pumps and taps and things. So yeah, it's always helpful. Right, so what I'm going to do is just open up this door completely. So the fridge just here is an Electrolux fridge, RM4200. Now that's quite an important number to remember, because if you do ever need any parts for this particular fridge, that's the number that you'll need to know. There is also a more in-depth sticker at the back, but they do quite commonly go a bit moldy like that because they're inside this fridge all the time. So RM4200, that's the one that you need to remember. As I said, you know, we've done a full habitation check on the vehicle. There's absolutely nothing wrong with this fridge, but if you ever need it in the future, that's what you need. So it works 3 different ways. So this is what you call a 3-way fridge. It works on gas, which is over here on the right hand side. It works on 240 volt electric, which is the green switch, and it works on 12 volt electric, which is the red switch. Now the green switch there for the 240 volt, the hookup, and the gas are the only 2 ways that this fridge will get cold by itself. Okay. The red switch over here is only for keeping the temperature in the fridge, if that makes sense. So you have to pre-cool this fridge before you want to use the red switch. So to try and make a little bit more sense out of that, I'm going to leave that for a minute and I'll come back to it. So on the right hand side here, like I said, this is your gas. Now, assuming you've got the gas switched on, you should have gas coming to this fridge. You have got gas isolators in the van as well, which I will point out to you in a minute, just down here behind this cupboard. But switch your gas on, and if you want to light the fridge up on the gas, you need to, what I'll do, I'll just turn it off for a second there. So essentially the way that these work is you've got a little hole down there. It was not actually a hole, but it's a little glass plastic viewing window, and it can be a little bit awkward to actually physically see the flame sometimes, which is why I mentioned putting your hand over that vent on the outside, because that'll sort of tell you if it's working as well. Mainly because over the years these do get a little bit dirty and you can't really get to them to clean them. So the way that you use these is you turn the valve round like that, so that you got a little gas symbol there against this one here. Push in on this one to allow the gas through whilst pressing on your piezo igniter. All right, so if we do that and watch down there in the peephole, I reckon that's probably lit, but like I said, it is awkward to actually see it sometimes. You can see it there now, look. So a little blue flame in there. Now all I've done, like I said, was I pushed in on this, I'm still holding it down, and pressed on the igniter at the same time. So when you've got 2 hands to do this, when you're not holding a phone like I am, it is a lot easier. But basically just keep your eye in there, make sure you can see a little blue flame, and then you can let go. As long as you've let go of that and the flame stays on, like it is now, then you can leave it alone for a few hours and the fridge will get cold. Okay, so that's how you light the fridge up on the gas. It's really, really easy once you get the hang of it. I'm going to turn it off just by doing that, and then a few seconds later you'll hear the thermocouple click. It's usually quite quiet on the fridges. Right, so the other way to use the fridge, like I said, is the green switch there. So if you're hooked up on the mains, you can just basically switch the green switch on there and select your power setting, really. You know, if the fridge isn't quite getting cold enough, just turn it up a little bit, basically. So that's it. That, again, will take a good few hours to actually get the fridge cold. But the 240 volt and the gas are the only 2 ways to physically get the fridge cold. So the red switch over there, like I said, that's your 12 volt switch, is why you got a little battery symbol in front of it. So the 12 volt switch is only for when the engine is running. And the reason for that is, you know, if I do this now, turn that on, it is doing absolutely nothing at all because the engine isn't running. So you've got, in this van, you've got what's called a split relay or a split charger. And what that means is that the alternator under the bonnet, essentially, instead of just charging the engine battery like it would have from factory, they've run an additional couple of cables, one to the fridge for this switch here, and one to the leisure battery to charge the leisure battery up whilst you're driving. So the red switch essentially is just a switch to keep the fridge cold whilst you're driving. And because of that, it won't actually, you know, it just retains whatever temperature you've already put into the fridge. Now, this is the same on every van that I ever do. It's not just this one. So that's just the way these fridges work. Right, so I'll close that door up now. As I said, down here under the oven, you have got a couple of gas isolators. So the top one there is the 3-burner hob up the top here, and the bottom one is the fridge. And to isolate them, all you have to do is turn the dial 90 degrees so it's facing vertical. So that is your isolators for there. Now you've got, as I said, you've got the 3-burner hob. You will notice you've got 4 dials over here. That's because one of them is for the grill, which is underneath. The grill one is this one just here, second one down. So you'll need an igniter of some description to light any of these up, okay, because there's no ignition on any of these. So you will need, you know, normally like a long reach candle lighter or something is the best way to go about that, or one of the clicker things, the igniter things. So yeah, I mean, I don't tend to run through these because it's just literally a case of pushing down and turning whilst you're, you know, you've got the lighter on it. It's nice and easy. But there you go. So that's your 3-burner hob and the grill. You will need a grill door open when using it. So spin flow, it's the same brand as the cooker up here, so you know, would be a good indicator to me that it's never all been changed, which is good. So same again, because this is just an oven, there's no grill at the top of this one. You will need an igniter to light this up because there isn't an ignition on it. So push in and round to the left to actually allow the gas to come through, and then light up along this sort of rail bit at the back. You then got your gas marks there, so you got 1/4 all the way through to 9, and that's it. Nice and easy. So at the back of the van, obviously this is the bed, which makes up, essentially just take this piece of wood out here and it will pull slats all the way through to the front, and then pull your cushions towards you so that the back piece lays down. That's it. Very classic standard way of you know, having the bed laid out. And you've also got the bed over the top here as well, with the ladder for that. I feel like I'm going in a bit of a random order, but I will just show you as well whilst I'm here. This piece just here is a center pole for the awning, and essentially what that means is when you have the awning all the way out, you can put this in halfway across to essentially just stabilize the whole awning out. It stops it from sagging in the middle, and when you actually wind the awning out, you'll see the points for this, and yeah, you should be able to work it out. It's quite simple. And the actual awning winder itself next door to that. Okay, so the next thing I'll show you, just because it's in the next kind of area, is the boiler. Now this is, like I said, you've got a Henry switch in here, but it is actually a Carver boiler. So it's a 240 volt electric and gas boiler. We've already checked that there's water in the boiler, like I showed you earlier. And the way to use it is, I mean, at the moment I haven't got the hookup plugged in, so this won't actually work. But if you did have the hookup plugged in and you wanted to heat the water up via the mains, that's it. That's all you have to do. Turn the switch on and you'll get a little red light come on in there. So that's how you heat the water up via the mains electric. If you don't have the mains plugged in, but you do have the gas switched on, like I do at the moment, you just have to press this one button here. Green light will come out at the top, and as long as it actually lights up, the green light will just stay on. If it doesn't light up, you get a light come on down here at the bottom, and if you've not got enough 12 volt power, you get the light come on in the middle. But as long as that green light stays on at the top, you're good. It's on. All right, I actually heard it light up straight away, so I know that's going to stay on anyway. So that is how you use it on the gas. Simple as that. You can also, if you want to, I forgot to mention it. But if you wanted to double check that that was definitely working, same as the fridge, you can just go to that big vent that I showed you on the outside and put your hand over it and just feel the hot air coming out. So that's that, nice and easy. Below these two, I'm just going to leave that on for a minute. Below these two, you've got a mains hookup socket, so that's only if the mains is plugged in. A 12-volt socket just here, and an aerial point as well. So somewhere in the van, where it might be, probably in the wardrobe. Okay, yeah, so you've got a newer style aerial, which is just basically a fixed one on the roof. Comes to here, and then cuts off. Okay, yeah, so this is all wired up properly. So yeah, you've basically got a fixed aerial on the roof, so that basically means that you don't have to kind of tilt and turn it and move it around and try and find signal. It should just give you a signal straight away. You can fit a booster if you want to, if there isn't one fitted already. Can't see one anywhere. But yeah, you can fit a booster if you should want to. But there you go. So that's what all of those bits there do. In the wardrobe itself, you have got all of your paperwork in this brown folder just here. Behind this plastic cover, not that you should ever need to get to it, but that is basically where, it's essentially just the back of all of this, which again, much like the underneath of the sink and bits and pieces, is an absolute godsend of a thing for people like me who have to take these apart and fix stuff, because it just gives you really good access to everything. On the newer vans, you have to kind of dig around and try and gain access all the time, but these ones are generally much easier. Okay, so can't quite see. This is the top of your freshwater tank. So the freshwater drain, if you can just about see it down there in the corner, I don't know if you can, there you go, that is your freshwater drain off point, and there will be a waste drain on the outside as well. The 240 volt trip switches are just here, plug-in systems. They've been making these parts for these fans for a long time. So yeah, that's just your trip switches. And then the last bit, or the last appliance I need to show you, is your space heater, which is this one down here. So this, even for me, is a little bit new. Well, not new in age, I mean new as in I've not really seen one before, if I'm completely honest, but it works really well. I can show you just how to use it. So it's gas only, it doesn't work on the mains, it's gas only, and it works much in the same way as the fridge, apart from it's just slightly different to actually physically light it. So you've essentially got, down here is your peephole, and I call it that because it's just the way that you see the flame basically. So to actually light it up, all you have to do is push down on this little button here, turn it until you get to this little spark symbol, and then it will basically spark. Okay, so that's what you have to do, just that. When you're doing that, if you can, have a little look down there. So there you go, you see the flame lit straight up just then. So now that that's lit, all I'm doing is I'm holding it in this position here. And I'm going to keep holding it. It does say in there, hold for 20 seconds and then turn to full. So I'm going to do that. I'm just going to hold it for 20 seconds or thereabouts. And the reason that you have to do that basically is because this at the moment is just like a pilot flame. And once it gets to a certain temperature, it will then allow the main flame to carry on. So just coming up to the 20 seconds now, I reckon. And so all I'm going to do is I've lifted up, I've let go of it now, so it's still on. Still on in there. And now all I'm going to do is turn this dial round to full. Now I've done that and the main flame is kicked in as well. So as long as that stays on in there, that's it. That's how you use it. I mean, it's so easy. When we had the habitation check done, the guy who done it here on site, he essentially took the front of this off, cleaned it all up behind because it was a bit dusty and that hadn't been touched for a little while, and yeah, it works absolutely lovely. Gets really warm nice and quickly, and nice clean blue flame. There's no orange flickers in there really. So yeah, working really well. I must admit, I was quite surprised that it just yeah, perfect really. So yeah, that's it. That's how you use the space heater. So you can just leave that on as long as you like. Be careful on the front of this, obviously, because it is metal here and this will get very, very hot. So try not to touch the actual front of it there. And that's it. Once you're done with it, turn it all the way off like that. Make sure the flame's gone out, which it has done. And that's it. Okay, last bit is the bathroom. So the bathrooms normally don't take me very long because there's not much to show, if I'm completely honest. All you've got really in this particular one is the mixer tap. Well, it's not a mixer tap, but the tap just there, hot and cold, and the tap itself does also pull out and go into the top here for use on the shower. But yeah, the only thing I need to show you really is the toilet. So the way that the actual toilet works is you've got a flush here. Oh no, sorry, different style. So this is how you actually open the flap for the cassette. So if I turn this, you see the flap closed, open. And then to actually flush the toilet, you twist this. The table's in the way there, so it won't stay up, but there you go. Sorry. So yeah, twist on this thing here, and that'll pump around the flush fluid. If you've got two hands, again, like I said, you can do it a bit better. Close the flap up when you're done with it. And that's it. Full-sized table just there, which will hook onto the metal bar at the back there with the clips at the bottom. And that's it really. So, pretty sure that's it. If there's anything you think I've missed out or anything you'd like going over again, just let us know. But otherwise, we look forward to seeing you soon to collect your van. Thanks very much.